All right, check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? What is going on, chat? Sorry about that. Had a little technical issue with the stream, but we should be up and running now. Let's just get a audio visual confirmation and we'll get right into it. Trade X investing can hear. Sounds good. Welcome everybody to At the Buzzer. Happy December. First trading day of December 1st, 2025. Got a great month of trading lined up ahead to end the year 2025. No Paul today. Coach Paul is out today. He should be back tomorrow. But you're all here. Thank you for joining each and every day as you do. I know some of the normal audience might have got confused by the stream that started and ended a couple minutes ago, but we will let everybody file in and just get started to prepare for the stream. I'm eating out of a vessel. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we could take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023. Coach Paul is normally here with me, but again, he is out today. But you're all the chat audience. Let us know how you did today. Were you up on the day, down on the day, anything that you learned from the day? And we'll get into it. How do you like Dakota pretty much hitting 25,400 on the dot? Yeah, nice call. Nice call. Really nice call towards the end of the day. It made sense, kind of right back into the middle of the range for what we saw in the markets. But let's take a quick look at the news. Not much as far as planned news goes. We know we had the holiday week last week, coming off of a holiday. Starting to see a little bit of volume come back into the market. We had an S&P manufacturing PMI final number come in at 52.2. Forecast was 51.9. And ISM manufacturing PMI came in at 48.2. Forecast was 49. Trade X investing up on the day plus 500. Brandon up 550 on payout day. Nice job. Nice trading. Let's take a look. Amazon plans US ultra fast delivery offering. How much faster can they get? Don't they already have like Amazon Now or something like that, where it's like 2 hours delivery? What is ultra fast? Is Amazon just going to start putting distribution centers on every corner for everything that you need? I don't understand how much faster they can get, but I'm sure we'll welcome it. I'm sure we'll welcome it. That's what we got as far as news. Let's take a look at the quote board. There is 36 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts. Today, to the downside, we had the Nikkei down 1.54%, Micro Bitcoin down 5.57%, and Micro Ethereum, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 9.05%. Crypto still taking a little bit of a hit here. Just quick look at this Micro Bitcoin chart. Since we closed below that 200-day moving average, and that was November 4th, been a pretty decent sell-off, down about just under 20% from the 200 moving average, down about 30%, I believe. Yeah, just over 30% from the all-time high in Micro Bitcoin. Just kind of looking back, I think one of the targets that we talked about was the high of this candle here. That's August 5th, 69,245 is that high. Looks like an interesting target to me to the downside in Micro Bitcoin. We saw the 20 moving average cross below the 200. We're getting ready for the 50 to cross below the 200. That could happen as early as tonight. It looks pretty heavy here. And Ethereum, similar story here. The 20 moving average crossing below that 200. Again, pretty heavy. Ethereum's 45% off that all-time high. So a really heavy pullback here. Bitcoin red on the year, Ethereum red on the year. But I know for all the hodlers, it is a long-term investment. So just buy more. That is not financial advice, but I know that is how the hodlers look at the markets. How many more records? More. What does that mean, Kobe Bryant? It's a great commercial. To the upside, we had heating oil up 1.75%, silver up 2.33%, and RBOB gasoline futures up 2.68% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil up 1.52%, the S&P down 0.47%, gold up 0.41%, and the NASDAQ down 0.35%. Natural gas, honorable mention, it's in our top 5, up 1.4%. Shout out to Coach Hoop with a nice natural gas trade towards the end of the day there. Another honorable mention, silver. Shout out to all the traders that continue to mention silver. May not see it traded on Top Step TV all the time, but silver made new all-time highs today. 59,435, new all-time high in the silver contract. Stopped right below that $60 level, just about 2.5% off that $60 level. So let's see if the rally continues through 60. Big fat round number. Anyone who's trading silver is going to be aware. I'm curious to see, and I'll be on with Dakota tonight for slow markets. I'm going to have the silver chart up. I'm curious to see if there's any size that trades up there at that $60 level, because that could uh could be a sign of a trade there. Let's see. We'll probably start right at 7 p.m. for Powell, maybe a little bit earlier. I know Dakota and I will be in the green room before it starts, so maybe we start a little early if Powell gets going. But yeah, if Soul Markets is starting early tonight, so just keep that in mind. Janish says tilt got the best of me today. It happens. Any trader, any market participant is susceptible to tilt. What I would suggest is identify what your tilt triggers are, right? What puts you on tilt, and then when you are recognizing that in real time, do what you can to avoid making any trading decisions, right? Lock yourself out, step away from your desk, just get outside for a little bit, get a little mental reset, even if it's for the rest of the day, just to not have that tilt affect your account. Why are we starting early? Why are we starting early? We are starting early because Chair Powell is, believe, at a conference today. He Some people are assuming that he's going to announce his retirement. I don't think that's going to be the case, but what he says could be market moving, right? So we'll be starting just a little bit early there. Also, gold starts moving a little bit early. So I know Dakota, with the daylight savings time, was looking to make a change to maybe catch some of that volatility earlier on in gold. And we'll see, right? We're starting early. We may end a half hour early. Depends on. I guess it really depends on what the markets are doing. Guess it really depends. All right, let's take a look now at the equities. Taking a look at the NASDAQ on the daily. What are we seeing here on the daily? Market's still kind of imbalanced, right? Last week we had that holiday rally. We had the weird CME shutdown day on Friday. And today was, we tested the 50 moving average at the low. 25,193 was that price, pretty much the low tick of the day. And it's holding up, right? So this market is resilient. I think one of the things we were looking at was, with the low volume rally that we saw last week, the market was up 5% on a holiday week, 3.5 trading days. But we're up 5%. A lot of times what you'll see is when this low volume move happens, sometimes we'll see a retracement of that move just to, attract some more buyers here for a push up. Still early in the week, but today we looked into that range and rejected, right? Buyers held it up. October 10th, everybody remembers this candle. This was the tariff tantrum candle. We looked inside that candle, closing above the high. And that's one of the things we talked about during the opening call today, right? What happens at this 25,388 level? For now, we're closing above it. This is one of the more significant price action candles we've had recently. We had November 20th, which, you can mark out that November 20th range because it was pretty much the same range. But same idea, right? In this general area, we are seeing buyers step up for now. Do they continue to throughout the rest of the week? Not only price trading higher, but volume trading higher. And then, we're talking about all-time highs pretty soon. NQ is slowly rolling over and slowly getting into rollover, right, where these contracts are going to expire soon. So we'll be trading the February contracts, I believe it is. But let's take a look at the overnight session. So last night we opened up, Coach Paul and I like to mark out that first 30-minute range. This is 6 p.m. Eastern time last night. And we got some urgency. What does urgency mean? In the next two 30-minute candles, we had price and volume leaving the range pretty aggressively, right? This is the first full session back, first day of the month. And right out the gate, selling came in and sold this market off about 300 points from that opening range. So really nice trade in the overnight session if you were able to catch some of that. I was not. I think I was cooking dinner at this time. I was not trading, but that would have been a pretty good trade. Uh, but then we test into that October 10th candle, and this is where our rejection came from, right? We have the 200 moving average on the 30-minute that is, you know, pointing up and to the right. We tested it last week. We know we had that low volume rally. So I wouldn't be surprised, and we said this during the opening call, I wouldn't be surprised at a test of the 200 moving average, but this is a market that's somewhat in an uptrend, right? And then it was from that point a range day. We never made another high outside of that 30-minute range. We did come in and test it. 25,500 was right around 50% of that range. We come in, we test this level. There was some size up here on the order book. About 300 contracts offered at 25,510. We can see the Nasdaq did not trade above 500 during the New York session, where there was not enough convinced buying. You can kind of see where VWAP was, right? I was on with Coach Hoop and Coach Vince, and I was saying I kind of liked a short in the equities for this reason, right? We have price trading higher, but volume kind of stayed in that first. If we look at the first half an hour from the New York session open, volume stayed in that range. So price got up here, and look at this volume pattern, right? Some of the traders in the chat were asking, hey, why is this selling off when it is? And sometimes it could be a headline or something like that, but really in this case, we have a market that started making highs of the session on lower volume. You see this pattern here? Volume down sloping, price up sloping. This is what's called an invalidation of the price action, right? Price is moving higher, but there's not actually anyone buying it. There's just a lack of participation. And what happens when the volume steps back up, right? You can see this volume trend line here. When we break that volume trend line, what happens? Price comes right back down to where? Back to the average price, right back to VWAP. So this is a nice little trade setup. You can look at this invalidation of volume here as a potential. I think the one thing you don't want to do with this trade is preempt it, right? When did the trade break? When the volume broke, right? So if we have, would that be similar to a zombie rally? Yeah, it would, right? And now, do all zombie rallies have this pullback? They don't, right? If this, you see this trend line here, volume trend line here, what happens when we break it? And then I'm going to put a horizontal line right there. Once we broke that volume trend line, what happened, right? Volume stayed above that trend line, started to trade above the average, and we have price move back down to this VWAP. But yeah, this is kind of a zombie rally, right? I think the difference is with a zombie rally is we don't get this pullback, right? Sometimes the zombie rally just rallies into the close. But if you see the volume step back in on one of these kind of low volume drift moves, you can kind of trust that trade, right? Here's the candle. I'm going to mark out the candle. And when I took trading classes, we would call this a trigger, right? Where I'm looking for a short the entire time. But what the trigger is price action and volume in the direction I'm looking for. Right now, there may have been a ton of traders today that were looking to short this market, but maybe a ton of false triggers here, right? We have this volume trend line. It's not a coincidence that this candle was the first one to break that trend line, and we get some continuation, right? Some of these other ones here tested that trend line, but then look at the volume afterwards. See how there's no follow through, right? There's a spike of volume and then just a drought. Spike of volume and then a drought. With this one, we got a spike of volume and consistency, right? Consistent volume leads to fluid price action. And, some of these shorts where you were trying to take them, sometimes your job as a trader is just to wait for that trigger. This happened right at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then we get some follow through to the downside. But before that, nice rally. Here's the New York session open. We had price trade on both sides of the opening range before it decided to leave. Volume started to leave the opening range to the upside. And we had a push from there. Sarker says, still trying to understand how Coach Jay reads volume. I don't have a clue. Ask questions. I try to explain it as much as I can. I'm going to find a link to a class that I did. It's a 2.5-hour class on exactly what I'm looking at as far as volume patterns go. If you are interested in reading volume, I would suggest, watching this video that I'm getting ready to put in the chat as soon as I find it. I marked the opening range on the 3 minute personally. You can use whatever time frame. I know traders use 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minute, 3 minute, 15 minute, half an hour. Whatever you use, keep it consistent. I just like to trade off of 3 minute charts, so I look at a 3 minute opening range. Um, Janish, you have the link. I don't know if you're able to put it in the chat. That's the problem. I'll find it. I'll find it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, Sarger, if you have any questions, let me know, right, on volume stuff. What is that white line? This white line here is a 200 moving average. This one is on in a 3 minute chart. I don't particularly look at it on a 3 minute chart. I usually look at it on a 30. Maui Man looks at volume on the 5 second chart, which I get it. I get it. Seeing those spikes of volume. Yeah, Janish, you're not going to be able to post the link, I don't think, but try it if you can. That'll help. Oh, sorry. The white line on the bottom of my charts here, that is an ATR, right? Average true range. It's the average price movement in whatever time frame you're looking for. So right now I'm on a 30-minute chart in the S&P. That means, on the New York session open, the average 30-minute candle was 12 points. What am I using that for? Setting stops and profit targets. My stop is going to usually be 2 times that value. So in this case, if the ATR is 12 points in the S&P on a 30-minute and I'm trading on a 30-minute chart, then my stop needs to be 24 points, right? If on a 3-minute chart, that ATR is 5 points, and you can see the value right here behind my head, then my stop is going to be 10 points, right? 2 times that ATR value, just to kind of stay out of the way of the normal market fluctuations. Again, shout out to Coach Paul on that one. The S&P was a nicer opening range breakout trade where it didn't trade below the low of the opening range. The NASDAQ is just the NASDAQ. It's going to do NASDAQ things like run levels by a couple points before it turns around. But very similar trade up here in the NASDAQ. I did try to take that short, got a little too, and here, I'm going to point out this pattern again because it played out very well in the S&P as well. We have a volume trend line. We break above that trend line and hold above it on this trigger right here, which is price action and volume to the downside. And again, I was on with Coach Paul and Coach Hoop and Coach Vince around this time here, and I was looking for the short. Now I could have placed the short here, and here's the thing with me for day trading, right? To me personally, day trading is about timing and location, and some people disagree with that. Some people, say it's just about the location. The thing that the timing gives me, and to me, volume helps me with timing, is there's a higher likelihood of follow through on this trade when we have volume going in that direction. I wanted to get short from 68.48 in the S&P. 68.48. And there were a couple of times I could have done that price-wise, right? But the way I'm looking at this is, yeah, in hindsight, I could say, yeah, short it at 68.48, go with a 2 ATR stop, and just let the trade play out. But what I don't know, and somebody was mentioning zombie rallies before, when the market looks like this, I don't know where the high of that zombie rally is going to stop, right? But when I get this volume trigger here and follow through, that's added confirmation that the market agrees with my trade. So, just a different style of trading, right? Some people are just going to trade just the level and let the market play out. But to me, there's no guarantee, and there's no guarantee that we get follow through here either. But there's a sign that the market is saying, hey, we agree with your trade idea, and go from there. I just happen to miss this trade. I put the order in at 68.48. They did not go and fill me from there, but it was a nice trade either way. And you can see once we have this trigger, volume and price action, we never break it, right? We get continuation volume into the lows. Never seen someone trade volume trend lines, learn something new every day. It's just a volume pattern, right? It's just a pattern. What my trading mentor used to call it is a volume valley or a volume dip. This is a valley, right? This is a valley where we have high volume and then it's just it just craters, right? And now to me, in this volume valley, there's nothing for me to do, right? If price is trading in this volume valley, I can't touch it because I'm a volume trader. And if there's no volume trading, why am I trading? But as soon as we come out of that valley and we have some continuation volume, that shows me that the market has the potential to continue in that direction. And if you've never seen the volume trend lines, check out Anna Cooling. Her book on volume price analysis goes over this stuff pretty well. Who was my mentor? A guy named Rich Lepis. He ran a group called Ahead of the Charts. I was in his group for a couple years. Rich is unfortunately no longer with us, but some of his YouTube videos are still out there. But great volume analyst, could read the charts or draw a chart based on what he was seeing in the depth of market and time and sales. And pretty much the answer to everything that he talked about was volume. So that is why you hear me talk about it so much. Would you wait for a pullback to your area to enter a trade? Yeah, I'll post my link to the video for sure. And Courtney, right, ignition volume to fuel the drop, right? Once they got over that average, then they started, right? Look at the follow through. It's completely different from everything else we saw, right? And during the middle of the day, you're going to get consistent volume just because it's the middle of the day, right? So price moves fluidly. When that volume decreases, this is just shitty price action to me, where I've lost accounts trying to figure out this when the thing to figure out was be patient until more traders came back in to trade the market. All right, but that is the S&P. What am I looking at on the daily? Back to this daily October 10th candle. We held the high of it. 68.06 is that high. It was pretty much the low of the session today. We will see what happens for the rest of the week, right? The S&P is rest of the week and the rest of the year, really. S&P is less than 2% off the all-time high. So that is not a lot. If we get any kind of catalyst for this market to trend upwards, we could be talking about all-time highs by the end of the week, right? Now, of course, anything can and will happen. I know there's that Fed meeting next week, so I wouldn't be surprised at range-bound markets until the Fed meeting. That is December 10th. But yeah, holding that high for now. If we see price and volume below 68.06, then I'm looking for a rotation back to the middle. And then to the upside, let's see how close we get to that all-time high before the end of the year. All right. Sanda, is that you? Yeah, I mean, we will see. We will see. I would not be surprised if we're talking about all-time highs after that Fed meeting next week. All right. Anything? Let's just take a look really quick. Dow holding up probably the strongest out of all four, and then the Russell being the Russell, kind of just hanging out here. All right. Let's take a look now at gold. Take a look at gold here. Gold actually saved my day, and the one trade I took in this account was a gold short, and I took a short in a personal account in gold right around the same price, actually. I don't have that platform open, or I would share the trade, but it was a nice trade in gold, about 20 points. So gold here, gold not looking as clean as silver. Yeah, so it's a little disjointed now, right? We have silver making all-time highs, and we have gold doing what we kind of expected it to do, right? Here is the October 21st daily candle in gold, right? Now, why are we marking out this one? This is a trigger, right? Significant price action and volume off of that high. And we frame this one out, and we keep rejecting at 50% of it, right? Well, shouldn't say keep rejecting. We rejected at 50% of it once already, and today was that second rejection, right? No candle close above that 50%. We traded above there. Gold traded all the way up to, what was the high of the day? 42.9960. If you were watching the opening call this morning, we got long in the house account. I'll go over that opening range trade. But one of the things we talked about was, what is the market's response to 4,300? Why 4,300? Big fat round number. Everyone who's trading gold knows that we're trading at that level. And a lot of times what you'll see is at these big numbers, there's liquidity at those numbers, right? Now, I know there's different definitions and different understandings of the word liquidity, but when I speak about liquidity, it's actual orders in the market. And at 4,300 this morning, there was 113 contracts in gold on the offer. That means there's a passive seller at 4,300. And in order for price to go through that price, Either somebody has to buy it or that person has to move the order to then let us trade the prices higher. Uh, no one in the world was convinced enough to trade at 4,300 in gold today, and we saw that rejection. Not a surprise to see it right near 50% of that October 21st range. And again, one of the things we want to point out is gold is pretty range bound for now. I'm going to go back to April 22nd and mark out another candle that made the all-time high. And I want to just remind everyone how many times we rejected at 50% of this candle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think there was actually 6, but this price difference came with a rollover change here. We rejected at 50% of that candle a ton of times. Now, this is just the second time we're rejecting at 50% here. But if we don't see any volume above 42.82 in gold, I think we're coming right back down, right? And we saw gold in a 3-month consolidation. The difference here is we're getting that second test a little quicker, right? Where here it was, we get a test and then we had to wait another month before we got another one. This one, we had our first test and then it's been 2 weeks, right? So gold is trying to trade higher. But again, if no volume trades above 42.82, I don't know how much I trust that move. And that's why I took a short in gold today. I'll find the volume class by the end of the session. Don't let me forget. I will get it. But yeah, I don't worry about it, guys. I'm not going to leave the class without posting it. I'll find it. All right. Gold is just ranging, right? TradeX, I agree. All right, let's take a look at the 30-minute chart in gold here. I'm going to leave some of this stuff on here. All right. I'm going to leave 4,300 on there. And just remember, there was 115 contracts offered when we got up here. All right. So overnight session in gold starts. Where did my session breaks go? All right. So overnight session in gold here. Really not a whole lot to talk about, right? I'm not surprised that we see this balanced price action. We're at a level that the market has rejected at recently, right? So this is a resistance up here. Even if it traded above it a little bit, it is a resistance up here. We saw the market try to leave the range to the upside. Not really that same urgency that we saw in the NASDAQ, right? It took 5 30-minute candles to leave this range. And then when it did leave the range price-wise, volume wasn't very convinced, right? That VWAP barely left this range for the day. And again, it's heavy up here, right? If there are no buyers to attract or to trade price higher, we can't attract buyers to trade price higher. We might have to go lower to find them. We had whatever this sell-off was. This was 12 p.m. Eastern time, but it didn't really change the markets much. Kind of just flat. And then again, we trade up near that 4,300. I don't know what was up there at 5 a.m. this morning, but at 8:30 Eastern time, around that time, we were taking the opening range trade. I'll go down to a shorter time frame chart. And this is one of those examples where if you were watching the order book or if you want to go back and kind of watch TopstepTV while we were talking about it during the opening call, watch from 8:20 Eastern to 8:40. We talked about getting in an opening range trade. We took a 5-minute opening range. But one of the things I had said to Hogue and JD was if we get long up here, anything above 42.80, or this opening range triggers a long, 4,300, it has the potential to be a level of contention. And I said that before I knew what was sitting up there, right? As price traded up towards 4,300, then you get to see what's on the order books. And then it's confirmation that, if there was one contract sitting at 4,300, then we probably just blow right through it and trade up to 43.30. But there's 100 contracts trading there, right? And again, we trade 4 ticks below that and no one in the world is convinced that we can trade higher than that. I don't want to be a buyer up there, right? If no one else in the world is going to a party, it's not a party. And we could see that rejection, really strong rejection at 4,300 there in the NASDAQ and came right back down. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can see that stuff. I personally just use the depth of market. It's the way I was taught how to do it, but traders use Bookmap and all these other things to identify where the liquidity is in the market. And if there's not enough volume, if there's not enough aggressive volume to take out the passive orders, you're going to see the market come right back down, and that's exactly what we did. So really nice rejection up at 4,300s in gold. Two-sided trade. You could have longed it in the overnight session and then sold it and made money on both sides. Pretty tight range, but that is what we're seeing in gold here. Interesting with silver's run up today, yet copper sold off. Yeah, I don't know. So here's a correlation matrix. I don't know how correlated all the metals are, but there's that correlation matrix. I just put that in the chat. Um, Copper is just doing its own thing. I don't know. After this candle, I have not pulled up a copper chart to trade it at all because I don't want to get stuck in something like this that happens again now. This was maybe an anomaly. There was some copper, tariff news. Uh, I mean, if you want to have a one-man party, that's fine. It's a party wherever you're at, Travis. But after this candle, I don't want to touch copper. Silver is a different story. It is trending. Kind of expensive for Topstep accounts, but you can trade the micros as well. SIL is that micro. And I mean, we talk about it all the time. There isn't a market I won't trade unless it gives me a reason not to trade it, right? Copper this year gave me a real good reason to not touch that market right now. But silver, if my job as a trader is to identify opportunity, there is opportunity in this market. I know there was some, well, we won't go into that, but another market made new all-time highs. What I would be watching is similar to what we were just watching at 4,300 in gold. If silver trades up to $60 today, I will be watching to see what's on the order book there. If there's no volume that trades above $60 in silver, we could come right back down. Silver didn't break the low of the 30-minute opening range today. Yeah, another really nice one here, right? Another one where we didn't get the urgency. Silver, when was this? Was this Friday? This was a crazy move in silver here. It was just I don't think there was a red 30-minute candle on Friday. There was some speculation of whether or not the silver move was why we had some halts, but until the end of the day, there was not a red, and silver settlement is right here, right? So this is the settlement candle. That's the only red 30-minute candle we had on the day. That's a wild move. Big market, $25 a tick with the big contract. So just be careful if you're trading it, but it is where opportunity is right now in a trending metal market. So just keep that in mind. All right, I think that is it on the metals. Take a quick look at platinum, kind of doing its own thing too. Platinum looks a lot like gold, right? Where mark out that candle that made the high, reject right at 50% of it again. I could see this just falling right back down into that range. All right. If you guys got any questions for me, let me know. Kind of breezing through these markets here. I do want to take a look at Bitcoin, a little, in-depth look at Bitcoin as well. But let's take a look at crude. This will be a quick one. Crude is in a range, continuing to trade in that range. We rejected up at the 50-day moving average, which is right at $60. The high of the day today, $59.97. I wasn't watching the order book, but if I was, I would imagine that there was somebody up there at 60, or just crude is crude and stuck in this range for now. $1.12 range high to low today. Crude to me is a better set and forget range trade than anything. If we continue to say our job as traders is to identify opportunity, I personally just don't see a lot of opportunity for the way I trade in crude oil. But that does not mean that there is a lack of opportunity, right? If you're a range trader, we've been saying this is the market that you want to be in, because it's trading the same prices for the last, depending on where you want to define this range, but it's been trading these same prices for a while now, maybe a month, we could say. Do you ever trade the 5 p.m. open? I do sometimes. For me, if I'm trading right as the Globex session opens, I'm looking for urgency, right? What does that mean? Let's see here. I'm gonna go back to the NASDAQ really quick. Test Warren White, we can see you. Let's see. If I'm trading the Globex session open, for me personally, I'm usually not doing anything before that first 3 minutes. But what I'm looking for, and I'm trying to find an example of it, is an aggressive move that sustains itself. So here's an example. Actually, this is not even a good example. It's tough. It's tough. It's a thin market. Doesn't move. It moves really well. And I see some traders killing it trading during this time, but there's a very specific trade I'm looking for, and as you can see, I can't find just a quick back test. I can't find it. Um, but what I'm looking for is volume and price to leave that first 3 minute range as early as possible, right? Even in this case where we had this is a 3 minute range here. And if it doesn't, so here's the way I do it, right? If I'm gonna trade the Globex Open, I'll look at the first 3 minute candle. And if VWAP leaves that range, I'll get with that trend. If VWAP doesn't leave the range in the first two candles, then I have to zoom out and I'm going to a 30. Now I look for the same exact trade setup on the 30, right? Again, if it doesn't leave in those first 2 or 3 minutes, I can't sit there and try to trade it, right? Because what I know is this is a low volume time. Now, I could get caught trying to figure out this chop. And what did I say earlier about low volume time? If there's no volume, why am I trading, right? Look at what happens here. We have a spike of volume trend line, all that volume's below it. We break above and then hold above that high. Then we start to see some fluid price action, right? But if I sit here and say, hey, I saw somebody make, $10,000 on the Globex Open, to be honest, I got to give a shout out because everybody sees it on social media. Shout out to my guy Rips. When you see Rips make big money on a move like this, it's because he's creating that move for the most part. He's trading a contract size that he can move stuff around in illiquidity and probably in liquid markets as well. But in this case, for me, if I'm trading small size, I have to identify flow and then get in with the flow. If there's no flow, there's no trade for me personally. Um, I've made insane money trading between 5 and 8 p.m., but I can't find consistency. If you have a strategy, identify the strategy, right? Know when it works and when it doesn't work. Um, you know, if you've made insane money, then there's something there, right? Unless you're just throwing on a bunch of contracts, getting lucky, and then saying, hey, I made money. If it's something that you repeatedly see, journal it, right? Write it down. Write down what the setup is. Write down what the criteria is. Like, hey, I want to trade during this time, but I have to have these specific criteria checked off before I take a trade, right? Because it's not just a function of the time, right? It's hey, 5 to 8 p.m. Similar to the New York session, right? If the New York session is a flat line, right? In this case, it wasn't, right? We kind of trended up. But if the New York session looks like Friday did, where we have that opening, let's just call that the open, right? That's when CME came back online. There's no breakout trade for me here, right? So, this time period has the potential to give me a breakout trade, but if it doesn't do it, it doesn't do it, right? So I got to just be able to read the time frame that I'm trading. But if that's what fits in your schedule, join Dakota for slow markets, things like that. You can see how he trades it. There's definitely opportunity in it overnight for sure. Everyone goes their own ways. He's doing well though. Shout out to him. Uh, let's take a look. We were on crude oil again. Opportunity for range traders for sure. I would be watching what happens at this $60 level up there. Let's take a look at natural gas on the daily. We got above the 200 moving average on the daily. Since we had this gap up in October, we've been talking about the potential for this 200 moving average to be a target. And then what does the market do once it gets there? We've held the 20-day moving average for the most part and closed above the 200 on Friday, came down, checked into it. We really checked into about 50% of Friday's range and continuing to push higher. Now, there's some seasonality coming into natural gas. Shout out to Coach Hoop. Had a nice trade in natural gas. If you join him in Discord, I'm sure he'll talk about some of the fundamentals of this market. But for me, what I'm going on is I know last winter I traded natural gas and it was a great trade. So it's kind of presenting the same thing again. It's getting cold here in the US and we'll see what happens. Today was kind of an interesting day. It really didn't do a whole lot. We can see that first 30-minute range was kind of the range for the rest of the day until we got whatever this spike was towards the close. Flat VWAP, range-bound market, trade it like a range-bound market is what I'm reading this as. So when Coach Hoop got into that long, I really like that trade because we don't get to see the market like this, but that's an opportunity to limit risk. Now, there's no guarantee that this trade is going to work out, but if I was going to trade it, flat VWAP tells me range bound market. We have the potential to trade through the range. Now, the market has to agree, and there you go. Who trade where the opportunities are, and Coach Hoop was long, and he got long, in his own admittance at bad price, but still valid for the trade. And I kind of agree with it, right? Where he didn't have the greatest price, and why is that, right? Because if we look back, that was the range, right? It was kind of middle of the range, but we were coming off the lows of the range, so higher potential maybe to trade back up to the highs. And then we got that volume to come in right around 1 p.m. Eastern time, and a really nice push into the close. So I would be keeping an eye on natural gas as well. Again, we talk about a bunch of different markets here. For me, it's not an idea that you're going to trade all 36 markets at Topstep. That's just not feasible. Even for me, I have 8 markets up on a screen because I'm looking for which one or two are going to provide the best trades, right? If I look at all my trades today, I took one gold trade, well, 2 gold trades, one in this Topstep account, one in my personal, and then I missed an S&P trade, right? So I don't have to trade every single market, but I'll keep them up because I'm looking for specific criteria to take a trade, and we go from there. But again, natural gas is one that's providing opportunity day in and day out. All right, and I think that's it. We talked about our big four. Oh, Bitcoin. And I see some questions about the Treasury products. We can take a look at those as well. That'll be a quick one. Bitcoin, we talked about it a little bit, got under that 200 moving average. I am looking at, so we got a couple candles to frame out here. The one that just made this most recent low is some of the highest volume we've seen all year. I think it's in the top 10 for volume candles that we saw all year. We traded down to 50% of that, 84,870. And what date that is, that's November 21st. We traded down to 50% of it, closed inside this candle. A candle close here has me thinking, can we trade through the lower 50% of this candle, right? So what I would be looking at in micro Bitcoin is what happens at this high. 88,480 is the high of this November 21st candle. So if we open up and we trade up to here, cool. Price can advertise higher. If there's no volume behind this move, then I'm looking for a rejection, maybe to trade through this candle, because I am looking for some targets lower in Bitcoin now. Just because I'm looking for them, does that mean the market has to get there? Absolutely not. But I'm looking at this candle, which is August 5th, 2024, as a potential target, right? 69,245 is the high of that candle. That's kind of where I'm looking. We haven't really traded that candle since we left it. That's the one I'm looking at for, real long-term buyers to step in Bitcoin. About another 25% off of where we are right now. 20% off of where we are right now. I wouldn't be surprised at it. Now, could this just, we find buyers and just turn around right away? It could, right? If we look at more immediate demand areas, in April, we turned around in this area right around 80,000. So that big fat round number 80,000 is a level, but how many times are we going to test it? 1, 2, 3 for it to prove whether or not it's actual support in this market. So we will see. Continuation and rotation. In which market? System Pro FX. How much lower do you want it to go? I mean, I don't care. I don't have any exposure to Bitcoin specifically. I do have some crypto, not Bitcoin. I don't want it to go too much lower, but if it does, then I might own some Bitcoin, because I don't think it's Bitcoin here. We're seeing a lot of volume to the downside. All right. What is that gray and green indicator that you use? This is just a fib tool. I'm just using it to mark out the high, low, and 50% of these candles. You could use a rectangle as well. You could use horizontal lines. I just have a fib retracement tool with all the other levels out of it, just so I can see high, low, 50%. 71K, 50% macro retrace. Let's see. Are you looking from here to, wrong tool, here to 71K? 50% of what are you looking at here, JD? From where? Maybe on the spot Bitcoin. Futures don't go back that far, but I believe you. I believe you. All right. Any other market? Oh, we had a request for the Treasury products. Uh, got you. All right. Treasury products. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't really looked too much at these. What I will say is April 7th. I would mark out that daily candle, and you can see how we respond around 50% of it. These markets have been very range bound. Looks very similar to crude oil. Um, you know, kind of range bound. Took a big hit today. I don't know why the treasuries were down about why the 30-year was down about 1% today. But nice hit today. But with the way this market has been trading, I would not be surprised at a full retracement of this move. We have a Fed meeting next week. We have Powell speaking tonight, so that maybe that could give you some volatility here. I know there are some fundamental things people are talking about. Japan and their liquidity, right? And do they have enough funds to keep buying U.S. debt and things like that? Um, we'll see on that, but I'm not going to put on my economist hat because I don't have one. But from a technical perspective, this is a market that's in a range, and personally I would think to trade the range until it's no longer a range. And right now, I don't really see it breaking out of here at all. Any other markets you guys got? Any other questions you guys have? Let me know. Can you share your strategy, which will be good for trading gold with a good win rate? So my strategies don't have a good win rate. At best, it's like a 45% win rate. But if you watch, Coach Hoop just said, if you watch Aaron, he is our resident gold trader. All he does trade is gold. Every once in a while, he'll trade the Nasdaq. But what I like to do in gold every day, personally, is look at the Asia session open. Dakota and I are going to be on for that time frame during slow markets tonight, and look at how volume trades from that point. I don't know that I have a specific strategy for any given market. The one thing I'll adjust is the time that I'm trading that market, right? I may trade gold more overnight than I do the equities. But for me, it's a volume based strategy, and for my trading style, any volume based strategy, you're at the mercy of the volume that trades in the market, right? If there's no volume trading, I should not be trading, and that's just the way it works for me. Because the way I understand the markets is when they're moving, it's because things are happening, right? Coach Hoop is in the chat. I would ask Coach Paul all the time when they were trading on the floor and the pit was actually audibly silent, they weren't doing anything, right? Because there was no edge in trying to trade against each other. Maybe there was, right? But you're scalping here and there. Um, but when the volume picked up, like actual audible volume, that means things were happening, and then there's opportunity in that volume. I see it the same way. This is loud to me, right? This is, hey, there's opportunity in this because things are moving. When it's low volume, I don't care what time of day it is. It could be, it could be my favorite trading time, right at the New York session open. We actually see this sometimes, right? On an FOMC day, next Wednesday, I don't expect a ton of great price action from 10 a.m. Eastern all the way to 2 p.m. Why? Because it's going to be lower volume because the whole market is waiting. So why should I be doing everything? If the guys with the bigger money are waiting, why am I looking to make any decisions? It's kind of the way I look at it. But yeah, check out Aaron for the London Open for sure. And yeah, System Pro FX, I do like to look at momentum. Any other questions you guys have, let me know. I'm going to spend a minute or two looking for that link. Should program an audible indicator linked to volume. So I do have one in Quantower. I showed you guys that before. But I do have an audible indication of when volume comes in. And there's a bunch of different platforms that do it. All right, here we go. Here is the link to that class. Again, it's a 2-hour class. It's kind of how I look at volume. I don't even think I covered everything in that 2-hour class, but it should give you a pretty good idea of what I'm looking at. When we started off going through the depth of market and, talking about actual liquidity on the markets, how the markets actually trade, where again, no matter what trading strategy you use, if it's an algo or not, uh, the function of every market participant is to buy or to sell. Um, so if there's an algo that's coded and they updated the algo, new firmware on Friday, that algo's function is to buy or sell, or introduce or take away liquidity from the markets, right? Which is volume. So that's why I read it. Bookmap has volume, pressure, and price change sounds. Yeah, that's awesome. Can you share your routine before trading the do list? What do you check? How do you prepare for trading? Yeah, I'll share that. We got a couple minutes here. For me, what we do during the opening call is my process. I'll look for higher time frame, just where we are generally. Like, let's say we were doing gold. I'll do, you know, if this was the opening call tomorrow, exactly what I do here. Here's a candle that I framed out, and we continue to trade here. Why did I trade this one? Significant price action, significant volume on the daily. We rejected at 50%. From there, I don't do too much more. I go down to a 30-minute chart and I look at where we are in relation to this 200 moving average, which is this white line. And I say we're above it, right? So this is a market that has been trending up, but then I have to trade the market that's in front of me that day. So the last thing I'm going to do is look at VWAP from the start of the day and then start to plan my trades from there, right? So I have higher time frame levels. I have this 50% of the daily candle. Then I have the session open, and I start to play my trades from there. My process is exactly what you guys see me do on the opening call with Hogue every morning. And I try not to do too much more than that, because personally, I feel like if I do a lot more than that, then I'm predicting what's going to happen in the market, and I can't control what the market does, right? And we do want to try to predict, but I also think that my job is to react to what the market says, right? If I say, hey, we got an FOMC meeting next week, they're going to cut rates, the market's going to go up. To me, that's a strong prediction for something I don't control. And then if the market goes down, I have to ask whether or not I'm flexible enough to either not take that trade or flip sides and follow what the market's doing. So, I'm just going to have some general levels and then say, my job is to read what the market says when we get to these levels. Perfect example, 4,300 today. I should have shorted up here because the read was there's size up at 4,300 and no one's trading it. What does that say? That no one's interested in buying this market. Look at the market from 4,300. That's a short, right? If I just go and say, hey, I need to short 4,300 in gold, that could work, right? And that could be somebody's trading style. But for me personally, that doesn't work, right? So, whatever strategy you decide to use, just make sure you manage your risk, because you could just put in an order. I'm going short 4,300. That's the price that I want to sell, because you have some higher time frame analysis that you look at. Um, but if you short 4,300 and the market is trading 4,400 and you've blown 5 accounts on the way up to 4,400, that has nothing to do with your strategy. It has everything to do with risk management. Rollover in equities is, I believe, next week. I believe next week we should be rolling over, if not the week after. I believe it's next week, though. Coach Hooper knows for sure. All right. I think that is it. I think that's it. I think we got through most of the questions. Let's see here. Oh, Janish had asked a question about the opening range. Which trend do you follow short term? I follow medium time frame trends, 30 minutes. I'm a day trader, right? With these accounts. So I like to identify what the higher time frame is doing, but that doesn't mean that there aren't counter trend opportunities. So for me, I'm more so leaning on the 30-minute chart. T bonds. We went over the 30-year. The 10-year is kind of the same. Mark out that April 7th candle and watch how the market responds to there. But this is just range. I look at this and say, if I was a range trader, this is where I want to be, because I buy it at the lows, sell it at the highs. But Yeah, I don't see personally for me much opportunity here, but if we're down near these lows, opportunity to buy it. Up near these highs, opportunity to sell it. Um, Cody, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank everyone for joining. Uh, I think I think that's it. I think that's it. I think we did it. Coach Hoop, I'll be sorry, Coach Paul should be back tomorrow. But we do have Coach Hoop doing a class in Discord. Maui Man, see you later. We got Coach Hoop doing a class in Discord, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern. And again, slow markets are starting early today, 8 p.m. Eastern time, to catch whatever Jerome Powell says if it does move the markets. I will be on with Dakota tonight. And we got Aaron with the London Open, 2:30 Eastern, and D with the Euro Trade, 4:30 Eastern time. And then we're right back tomorrow with the opening call. Thanks everyone for joining. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up button on the way out. We appreciate you. We cannot do these shows without you. Coach Hoop, thank you for helping moderate this as well. So if last week was 3.5 days of volume, 3.5 days versus 5, should we add that much volume to the week to keep it comparable? Add that volume to the week? No. So the way I would look at this, JJ, is last week was just going to be a low volume week, right? It was just it was going to happen. If we had average volume last week, something would have had to go wrong, in my in my opinion, right? Because it's a holiday week, 3.5 days. So more so than if I go with the constant that that's going to be a low volume week, then the variable is what is the price action for that week? We could have sold off, but normally what happens on low volume weeks is we rally, right? Because equity markets are meant to rally. So this is kind of just confirming what we normally see during low volume weeks, right? During holiday weeks, right? This float up. So now would historical comparison be better? Let's take a look actually. So one was, let's go to November. Let's go to last. Okay, here it is. This is Thanksgiving week last week, right? That's the week of Thanksgiving last week. Different price action, right? So the constant is low volume. The variable is 5% week this week. And last year it was a 2% high to low week and pretty much a 1% week, right? So now it's how does price when the volume comes back in, right? And we could see it. We had low volume and then we started to get above average. But even then, it was still kind of iffy. How does price respond here when more market participants come back? Right. So, market participants were able to move price last week. Does this hold up now when the volume comes back in, or do these heavier market participants say, hey, you know what? We're not okay with price being this high, so we have to sell it back off, right? So that's the read here, right? Because that constant is going to be a low volume week on the week of Thanksgiving, right? Here's another one here. Here's Thanksgiving week, 2023. The constant is low volume. The response is, the variable is the market's response to this low volume. All right, but great question, great question. And we could see Santa rally, a little semi-Santa rally before the sell-off into 2025. So it's going to change, right? It's going to change, but I'm going to mark out this zone to see how the market responds to it. But great question, great questions from everybody today. Thanks again for joining. Make sure you check out all of our other coaches and their segments, and we will see you all tomorrow. Trade well, everybody. Manage your risk, have a plan, and trade your plan. See you soon.